This is the first of two programs featuring the work of Jeff Monks and Ray Hammond, who visited the Republic of Indonesia at a time when an amazing array of steam power could still be found at work on the state railway system, the PNKA, which was later renamed the PJKA. We begin on the 3-foot 6-gauge West Sumatra system, which was one of 3 unconnected rail networks on the island operated by the state. Inside the main works at Padang, the majority of locomotives receiving attention on this visit in 1982 were rack and adhesion 010 tanks of Class E10. The West Sumatra system is located at the centre of the island on the southwest coast and was built mainly for the transport of coal. The system opened in 1891 and has to negotiate a mountainous route inland from the coast to gain access to the mines. The steepest sections have always been rack operated on the Riggenbach system, although the rack is not continuous and rack and adhesion steam locomotives consequently had to be employed. Conventional locomotives were used on the flatter sections at the extremities of the network. Our first view of a working train is of a pair of E10s, easing a set of loaded coal hoppers towards KU Tanam, which is located at the bottom of the rack section at the coastal end. 22 of these engines were built in the 1920s, with a further 17 supplied in the mid-1960s, and these proved to be amongst the last mainline steam locomotives built anywhere in the world. Prior to the arrival of the first 010Os, a range of much smaller rack and adhesion locomotives had been used, the last of which were out of use by the 1970s. The main shed covering the rack section was at Padang Panjang, and here we see one of the last working E10s from the 1920s series, E1014, moving about the shed yard. The mountainous terrain attracts a great deal of bad weather, and a pair of the later E10s are next seen in a rainstorm climbing the rack between KU Tanam and Padang Panjang, with empty hoppers bound for the mines. On this occasion, 2 trains are effectively combined, but on other occasions trains would be split and taken up the rack section by single locomotives. At times when traffic was heavy, several trains would closely follow one another up the rack. We see E1014 once again being prepared to work a special train for a visiting group. This engine was built in 1920 by the firm of Esslingen and retained its original chimney, unlike those in the 1960s series which were all fitted with diesel ejectors. It is later seen crossing the Anne Gorge Bridge with the special train, and this is followed by a view of it heading downhill towards Kew Tanam past a spectacular waterfall at Man Kerr. A normal train consisting of coal empties being propelled by one of the later E10s is next seen heading up the rack section past the waterfall and towards Padang Panjang. Traffic could fluctuate considerably depending upon the amount of coal being produced, but in the 1970s and 1980s, a typical day would see 2 or 3 trains each way along the main rack section. Most of the coal was exported through the port of Teluk Bayur, at the extreme southern end of the system. Oil traffic was also worked, although coal provided by far the greatest tonnage. Further workings in the same vicinity are then observed. Firstly, with another combined pair of trains and then a series of separate workings, the third and final one of which is propelled by E1014. Below one of the bridges lay the remains of a rack loco which had met its end many years previously and which was presumably not worth recovering. Dieselisation of the non-rack sections of the West Sumatra system had been largely accomplished in the 1970s, and the final demise of steam on the remaining portions was heralded in 1982 with the arrival of a batch of rack-fitted diesels from Switzerland. Following some strengthening of the track to take the new machines, steam finally bowed out around 1984.